Alrighty. Well, we are live. Keith Miller, thanks so much for joining me, my friend. How are you today?
Doing great, Jake. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. We were chatting a little bit before this, and I heard that Montgomery County's been getting a little wet, but how's it right now? Are you guys starting to see some sunshine at all?
Oh, it's sunny and beautiful today, but that has unfortunately been the trend, I should say. It's sunny and beautiful on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, and then Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays. We always seem to have in this type of weather event, whether it's rain or cooler temperatures. So it's the demand is there. Everybody's ready to play some golf. We just need some weather to cooperate here in the Mid Atlantic.
Yeah, I don't know who cast a spell. Maybe it's one of your county operators, a few states over or something that got a voodoo spell against their DMV neighbors.
I think it might be the folks in Texas who had
Is
all
that
that
it?
rain last year. They're saying, "Hey, go over there. Let's give us a nice year." So it
There
it you know it ends up somewhere in the country, right? There's always somebody getting it.
Exactly. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe the greenskeepers or something, when summer comes around and maybe you go through a dry spell, they're going to be thinking, all right, well, at least, they're rolling beautiful and everything's grown in. So I'm sure it's very green on a perfect day, right?
Absolutely right. The golf courses are gorgeous, and you know what? I always joke with the superintendents. It's always fun banter back and forth. It's they're either complaining if they got too much rain, they're complaining if they get too much sun. It's always a
Right.
good time. But honestly, the team does an incredible job, and the golf course is absolutely beautiful. And so yeah, we just can't wait to the weather trend to turn.
There you go. And do you ever get to do some on-course assessments, get out there, make sure things are rolling right and tee it up?
The official course inspections, yes, we
Right.
try and make sure they happen, Jake. It's great to get out there to talk to the team a little bit and just understand what's going on with the property and how the customer's experience is going. So yeah, I think it's an important part. And I always say this, with us in the industry, if we can't do meetings on the golf course, who's going to? Right.
Right.
So it's
Right.
anytime I get a call about a meeting, the first question is, do you play golf? Let's go out and play golf, because it's a great spot to do a meeting and get to know and really have a lengthy conversation with somebody.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm sure you love all your children the same. But looking at
Absolutely.
your, what, 9 properties, are there any
Yeah.
that, you really, if you get a VIP who says, Keith, I'm in town, where are you taking them?
Wow, that's a great question. And you're kind of putting me under the pressure here because if the team they'll hold this one against me. Um, here's the great thing, and the great thing about our system. Our system really has golf courses of all different levels, from a
Hmm.
standalone 9-hole golf course up to 18-hole golf courses around 6,000 yards in length, to our championship course, which is over 7,400 yards in length. So to answer your question, it kind of really depends on what the person is looking for. Am I bringing somebody in that's a low handicap that's looking for a challenge? Am I looking for somebody who just wants a fun day? I kind of pick the golf course by the person that or the individual who's coming in and what kind of experience we're trying to have.
Love it. Well, in the spirit of DC area, that was very diplomatic, and I think everybody's going to be feeling good about that answer.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, Keith, I'm excited to dig in today. It's been a lot of fun getting to know you guys. Really since the fall of last year, I think we got to meet at the TechCon with NGCOA, which
Yes.
was a lot of fun. And I've just enjoyed getting to know how you guys do things in Montgomery County. It's pretty interesting setup. I haven't seen too many. Obviously, your neighbors in Fairfax County that own and operate really the full stack end to end, which is pretty unique in an age with a lot of management companies. So I'm excited to learn a little bit more about your journey and how you see the world. And you've always come off as a very forward thinker with technology. So, maybe without further ado, tell us a little bit more. How'd you get into the world of golf management, and how'd you come to be leading the portfolio at Montgomery County?
Yeah, it's so for me the journey started. I was born and raised on Long Island, um, and And so it's like your watch is that?
It got mad at me, right? It said, "Who do you want to match?" I was like, "Whoa!" There you go.
So yeah, so it started on Long Island for me. My father was a golf professional, so born and raised in the business. So I've been around the golf business since I could walk and talk. I remember back in those days. I remember hand filling up baskets, out of a big ball hopper and doing that when I was probably around 7, 8 years old. And carrying the baskets in and restocking the shelves. So I started there. But really, what happened with my career is I fell in love with business, and so I went to school and got my degree in accounting, and just really kind of got fortunate to kind of merge those two loves of business and golf, and so started out early on in the private sector. I was a head pro, a PGA professional. I think at the age of 22, I was a head pro at a private country club. And kind of worked up through there. I went through ownership of driving ranges and, became a general manager of a private club, and then changed my career and went to work for Arnold Palmer Golf Management and changed direction there a little bit and got to spend those years doing that. And then really the journey ended up here in 18 years ago. I took over as the CEO of the Revenue Authority. Which MCG is a division of the Revenue Authority. And so that really kind of leveraged back into my business background and my accounting. And so we own and operate 9 golf courses here in Montgomery County. We own and operate an airport. We own and operate a winery and event center, and we do conduit financing. And so I get to enjoy all this different love of business, but also keep my hands in golf, which is, as you can tell, as second generation PGA professional, that's where my heart is. So I've been truly blessed by it all and the journey I've been on. So it's been great.
Well, that's such an interesting journey. I've heard many other operators kind of come up through the ranks from,
Yes.
Falling in love with golf at a young age and then, working your way as a PGA pro. And I'm sure you were tuning in to the championship yesterday, as I'm sure a PGA member. But I'm curious for you, when you made the leap from running a private course into the Revenue Authority, you probably had plenty of new things that you were looking at and operating that you'd never run before. Like, I don't know how much background you had in the airline business, the transportation business. How was that for you? Even daily fee public golf versus private, I'm sure, are very different businesses. So how was that transition for you?
Yeah, so from I'll answer the air park one. Yeah, that was just learning a whole new business, right? And learning, all the requirements there, and it was fun. I mean, that when you get in that journey, and that's why I say about love of business, because when you get in a journey and you get to do something new, it's just great, And so that was completely figuring something out new and dealing with the FAA and all of that, all those regulations and requirements to run an airport. But in addition to that, and private versus public, so my father was on the public side of things. I ended up in the private world for a while, then I ended up on the public side, and so throughout my career, it's been operating both public and private. And so when I got here and going back to the public side, just 100% on the public side, it was really, they're different, but they're similar also. In that, ultimately it's about delivering that customer experience. It's about satisfying the customers. Now, different levels on a private club and different experiences, that expectations there versus on the public side. But ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to deliver a great product and a great experience to the customer. That's really what it comes down to.
I mean, it's really the Montgomery Revenue Authority, the revenue in there, it has an association with obviously the economics, with the top line and running a business, but I'm sure it could be called the Montgomery County Customer Authority, right? Because
Sure.
it was like what you just said, that you're in the people business, and also it's a difference running a public revenue authority versus if this was a pure private market, P&L, the way you'd run things also may be a little different because you're representing the people in a lot of what you do.
Yes.
I'm curious. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jake, to that point, yeah. I mean, the just that everybody understands the Revenue Authority of Montgomery County. We're a public corporation. We're a nonprofit, right? So we don't receive any money from the county. We don't give any money to the county. And the word nonprofit, we're a nonprofit. So to your point, operating a pure for-profit entity versus a nonprofit entity, there's difference there, right? We're taking everything that we make, putting it back into the facilities and that customer's experience, and don't have the pressure of the year-over-year growth and greater returns and everything that comes along with that. So it is a little different experience, but just to clarify so people understand what we are and how we operate, that's a little bit of how we operate.
Yeah, but it's probably a virtuous cycle, right? The
Yes.
better product you have, the more, capital you can accumulate, the more you can invest into the business, the more you can delight customers. And it really creates a virtuous flywheel where if, sometimes I love this quote. I've said it many times on this podcast and others, from Charlie Munger, which is, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome.
Yeah.
And there are times where if it's a public entity, you may not be incentivized to run a great business because you can just turn on the lights, open the cash register, and that's your job. But as you know, to drive a great customer experience, there's 1,000 other things you have to think about. And, the better product you have, the better everybody's experience is. And so I think it's really cool that you take that forward-thinking approach as it relates to your MCG group. But I'm curious, is there anything you've learned from your non-golf divisions that you've brought into your golf division?
That's a great question. And my natural instinctive answer is I've taken more from the golf and brought it into the other areas and the other divisions and what we're trying to do than I did really coming back into the golf side of it. Really, I guess the only other area is on the financing side, and a lot of the project financing that we do has allowed me to be more creative when we're financing on the golf side of things. As you know, in that world, trying to finance projects and finance your business and so on, you've got to be creative there. And so a lot of what we've done and what I've worked with on my teams on financing other projects is probably what most I brought over into the golf side.
Got it. No, I'm sure your other, the wine business and the airline business, they're probably always hitting you up for tea times, but at the same time, probably appreciating, the insights that you bring into the world of golf. I remember, so I got a master's in management science at Lehigh. And when I had a case study when I was there on optimization, and it was how do we reduce the lines in the airport? That was the case.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was just curious, whether or not I'm sure there are things, when you're running a portfolio that you can learn from one division into another, which is interesting because I'm sure at the end of the day, as you said, it's all about that customer experience and the efficiency.
That's what it always comes down to. If you look at the golf business and you look at what we do and deliver on a daily basis, right? The heart and soul of every one of our operations is our golf course conditions, right? If we don't realize that, that we're really missing something, right? Because ultimately that's what that customer is coming out to do. And so, and then it's about the experience that matches. What's the pricing? What are you trying to obtain? And who's your customer? Who's your focus, right? So there's high-end daily fees. There's low-end beginner golf courses. There's a mix in between. And what is that right experience? And if we're looking at that all in that bucket, then we can truly understand what is the right pricing, what is the right experience, what are we trying to deliver, getting clarity on that. And you can take that model and put it into every business that you do, right? Whether it's the wine business, whether it's the airport business, it's that same experience, understanding what your infrastructure is, what is that final product that you're delivering, how do you make that experience and who your target customer is. So how do you make that experience match? And then your pricing match and your revenues will match.
Everyone bring out your notebooks after that. I think that's a 2-minute PhD in how to run a good business from Dr. Miller over
Yeah,
here.
right.
Well, Keith, I'm excited, putting on the golf hat, right?
Yeah.
You over your 18 years have probably seen the business change a lot.
Mhm.
When you started, were there any online tee sheets
Oh
18 years
no,
ago?
yeah, well, you're going back 40 years ago when I started. Yeah, so no,
Right,
there
right.
was the big tab, the big paper with the pencils and the T sheets and all
There
that
you
good stuff.
go.
I remember it all, from the cash box
Right.
behind, seriously, to finally getting a cash register, and that whole bit in all seriousness, right? And then how technology has come into it. It's and you know what, Jake, I got to say, I mean, I was thinking about it as leading up to this. I was kind of just saying, wow, what a great time to be in the golf business. I mean, the technology that is out there and that's available to golf course operators today, which kind of really gets to your question, is tremendous. I mean, I go back. Oh, let's see. Maybe I always say that there's that COVID zone, right, of years. So, and I always try and quote years. I try and make sure I get the right amount. But if you go back to 2016, 2015, 16, 17, 18, in around that time period, the industry really didn't, it was trying to find the tools, but nothing was really starting to talk to each other.
Right.
Now you have tools that are talking to one another and that we can utilize and integrate into our point of sale systems and get data and information. It's a great time to be involved in the golf industry. It really is, from a technology standpoint.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at the PGA show. You were there as well.
Yeah,
And I had a lot of folks come up to us and say, this section over here looks a lot different than it did 5 years ago.
it's crazy.
Right.
Yeah,
I think all of us, we're self-described nerds, and we're proud to be golf loving nerds. But I think you go to the PGA show, you see all these gizmos and gadgets and bigger tees, and you get giant drivers and all these fun little things.
right.
But then in our section, every single course, whether it was Supreme Golf, 10-4, Price Swing,
Mhm.
you've got the new age of this software for operators.
Yes,
And it's this vibrant ecosystem where when you think about COVID, right, it jolted consumers into falling in love with golf,
yes,
from all the dynamics of work from home, being outside in nature. Even COVID had, breaking out in March. Well, that's the beginning of the golf season. So by time June comes around, when things open up from restrictions, what can you do? Everyone wants to go golf. And all of these tailwinds, that creates an economic environment where innovation presents itself. So
correct.
now you've got a lot of people who love golf saying, hey, maybe I could build a software business to help operators.
Yeah.
Right. And it's cool to see. We're happy to be part of the new wave, and the old wave, right? It's a lot of the legacy software companies are also stepping up their game.
Yes.
Competition is a good thing because it really makes everybody better.
I agree, and kudos to you guys because you guys had a problem, and I always say the most successful businesses are the ones that solve problems, right? And you guys started, with from what I understand in our conversations, trying to find a tea time in LA after the COVID boom, right? And just trying to find how do I get this? This is crazy. This is not customer friendly at all. And you guys really developed such a great tool that is really helps the customer, but at the same point, you're solving that problem for the customer, which is helping the operator. And you, with several of the companies that you just mentioned there, are really developed some great products to really help the customer, which in turn helps the operator and helps us all be more successful and give a better experience. So kudos to you guys for doing that. And you're right, the competition just continues to gets better.
Yeah, and the golfer benefits at the end of the
Yes,
day, right? They're the
absolutely.
beneficiary of making the product better. So I'm curious for you, right? You have a lot of decision power in setting up your technology stack.
Mm.
How do you think about what tools to implement? How do you think about what problems are worth solving? And how have you set up your technology stack today to drive the best possible experience for MCG?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, Jake, you and I have gotten to know each other a little bit, and so I'm kind of out there. I'm one of the first guys to say, "Sign me up. I'll give it a shot." And I like to see what new technology is and what it has to work with. I love giving feedback. I think our relationship and from my team's perspective has been very beneficial to both of us because we love to. How do we get this better for the customer? Ultimately, as an operator, we look at it always from the customer's focus. So it's not always about making our lives easier. It's about how do we improve the customer experience. And so to me, including your tool and our point of sale system, the biggest blocks that I would say is understanding the demand, understanding what the customer is looking at. The other big tool that I would say is hearing the customer, right? And putting that technology in place. So from if I take you guys and Noteefy and what you're offering a great experience that allows that customer to be notified when there's openings and be able to just get in there and sign up. What a great experience for our customer, right? Our T sheets are selling out so fast, which is great and been great since COVID. But then in addition to that, right, I think the next thing that we've got to do is, and we partner with Players First and customer surveys, right? And so that piece of technology in there is we got to listen to the customer, right? So we got to show them the availability. We got to make it easy. That's what Noteefy does, right? Noteefy allows them to make it easy. Hey, how do I find a tee time when I want to play? Don't have to think about it. And how do I get signed up? And it's easy technology. It's great for the customer experience. But then one thing for us, and I feel is very important, is listening. As you hear me talk throughout this conversation, it's hearing that customer. I want to hear what that customer is experiencing. So when they get out on that golf course, that technology we can't forget, right? And then there's technology on the golf course itself as far as being able to deliver, food and beverage and that whole part of that experience that's happening throughout. One of the things that we've done in the last couple of years is that we've also implemented technology to allow the customer to bypass and go right to the first tee, make it seamless, make that customer be able to come in, make that transaction easy for that customer and seamless for that customer. But then when you're on the golf course, how do you make that experience better for that customer on the golf course? So how can they order their food and beverage? How can they get, how do we get away from the traditional, I get on a golf course and I play my round of golf and I see the beverage cart twice in a round, right? How do I notify that beverage cart that this customer needs something and let's get over there and get it taken care of? So that whole experience and that technology, it's where we're testing new things all the time. And it's based on those principles, right? How can I make that customer experience better? How can I make that journey better for the customer? And then what technology plugs in there? And so that's what we like to test. And that's what we like to always have discussions and conversations about what else is out there.
Yeah, and I'll pile on. You said you're giving us feedback. We're giving you feedback on the data. I'm going to give Ryan, your co-pilot on the revenue management side of your operations, a lot of credit. He asked us, hey, that's great. I think in the first month we were doing some experimentation. He's like, yeah, that's great. A lot of people signed up, a lot of notifications. I want to know how many of these times we wouldn't have filled without you guys. Yeah. And he said, could you show us the revenue by days from the tee time? So I know, are most people booking 7 days out and this is a reminder, or is this 24 hours and this is last minute compression? We were like, holy smokes, that's a great idea. So we implement this chart because we have the data and we visualize the days from revenue booking to tee time. And it's always a U. You've got the early birds who are so excited because they want to play every Saturday. And they book out front and they show up and pay. And then you've got the last minute compression, which is why we exist, really, to make sure every canceled tee time gets filled. But I'm going to call that the Ryan chart because we've rolled that out across every operator, and it ends up being the number one thing that the operators care about is, understanding the value, understanding the usage. And hey, it's okay it's adding value to remind people to play early, because the customer lifetime value increases, they're delighted, their NPS goes up. That's all good stuff. But it's a different business case than refilling a Friday night cancellation for Saturday morning. That's just a different value prop.
Absolutely.
So couple more questions for you, and then I'll let you off the horn here. What are some mistakes that you see operators make? Is there anything that you've learned over your years that are, landmines or areas to avoid, or things that, are challenges that maybe others running, busy public courses can learn from?
So, I think that I'm still very surprised, quite honestly, when I hear golf courses are still posting their rates for the season. That is something that still happens in the industry, and it really is just surprising to me, because I think and I truly believe you got to be able to flex your rates. You got to be able to do, based on the demand conditions. There's so many variables that are going into that rate, and so to be able to just sit here in March 1st or January 1st and say, hey, here's my rates for the year. I think you're really missing a big opportunity, is what I would say there. The other thing that happens, I think, a little bit less since COVID, but I think it's still out there, is this discounting. You hear Jake Gordon from the NGCOA talk about this all the time, and that golf courses get right into the discounting mode, and there's other providers and entities out there that get into this discounting mode, and that's really not impacting you. And you're really giving away things. If you're going to discount, you got to be able to measure that and make sure you're getting a return on it. So I think people react and panic a lot and just discount. And then the third one that I would say, Jake, is that these programs that just kind of really offer unlimited play for a set fee, especially again focused on the public side of things. But these weekday packages that offer unlimited play during the week or 7 days a week and stuff of that nature. If operators really started to do the math on those programs, I think they really be surprised at how much they're giving away. But it's also, I understand it too from the other side. Once you're involved in that program, it's also very challenging to stop a program like that. But those are the three areas that I would say that, kind of stick out to me that have changed a lot over the last 10 years. And operators, I'm really kind of surprised operators are still doing any one of those three programs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why discount if the demand's there? That doesn't match on the, you've got supply, you've got demand, you've got price in the middle. Right. Don't discount if demand is high. So I love that. Yeah. All right. Last one for you, my friend. You've been in the industry. Did you say 40 years coming up on overall?
Yes.
What's your advice for someone who wants to get into the golf business? I'm sure there's, one thing that I saw that blows my mind, gets me bullish, is you look at youth sports. I don't know if you saw that chart. Youth sports percent growth, football, soccer, even basketball down. Yes. Golf up double digits.
Yes.
So if you have millions of new players coming into the industry, I get asked all the time, how do I get into the golf business? If you have folks who want to get in, what advice do you have for them?
The biggest thing is, to me, is, first and foremost, and you've heard it from many people on your show, and you referenced it before, make sure it's something you love. Whenever we're doing stuff that we love to do, it's you never have to work a day in your life, as you just go in and love it. But the other thing is so many different avenues to go into the golf business, right? Whether you want to get into instruction, whether you want to get into playing, whether you want to get into a traditional country club golf professional role, whether you want to get into management, so on and so forth. I would say for young people getting in there, get in there and work the bag room, get in there, work the carts, get in at the bottom, right at the entry level, and experience it. And then start understanding your pathways, because I think, to be successful, you gotta find that pathway that you're going to be happy with. There's people that have made unbelievable careers out of merchandising, and they love merchandising. They love doing it, and they do incredible. I mean, you walk into some of these shops and you're like, wow, this is just an incredible experience. And what a niche, you know what I mean, to be able to do that. There's incredible instructors. And what I always find when you talk to any one of those individuals and you really get into it, that's what they love, right? So they love golf business and they love the golf industry, but then they found their niche and what they really, really love. And once you do that, you're going to be successful. So explore it all, get started and get in there and just work every job you can and explore it and understand it all. Find the one that you keep migrating to and just go down that path.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. I had, there's a saying in startup world, which is product market fit. Do you have a product that solves a real problem? Is effectively what that means. But what I always add to that is founder market fit. Do you love the problem you're going after? And if you love the problem and you can build a solution that solves a problem, right? Sometimes you love a problem that isn't a big enough problem. But if you have a problem that you love and a solution, that's a winning formula. And it feels like you have founder market fit in running and, the Revenue Authority. And, you're solving a real problem for golfers who are looking to play affordable golf in the DC area.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Thanks.
Keith,
Yeah.
really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining. I know you're a busy man. I know I need to come out there and we'll do some on-course inspections and, take it easy on me with whichever one of the 9 you select.
Yeah. Listen, I heard about your game, so I'm going to say, take it easy on me.
Long and wide. No one's criticizing the length. Let's just hope if there's a tree line, that's going to be a problem on the right side.
So I got the course now that we can go to.
Sounds good, my friend. All right, Keith.
All right,
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you. Cheers.